Elijah Mercer caught the widow before she hit the frozen ground. 9 children huddled behind her in the snow, the youngest barely walking, the oldest clutching a baby to her chest. Blood seeped through the woman's worn boots. Her lips had turned blue. "Please," she whispered. "Not for me. For them." He looked at those 9 faces, hungry, terrified, watching him like he held their lives in his hands. He did. If you want to know what happened next, subscribe to my channel and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below, so I can see how far this story has traveled. Wyoming Territory. New Year's Day, 1884. Elijah Mercer hadn't spoken to God in 8 years. But when he opened his door that morning and saw what stood on his porch, he figured the Almighty had finally come to collect. A woman swayed in the wind, barely upright. Snow clung to her hair, her eyelashes the thin shawl wrapped around shoulders too frail for winter. Behind her 9 children stood in a ragged line pressed together against the cold. 9. He counted twice to make sure. The oldest was maybe 13, a girl with hollow cheeks holding an infant wrapped in what looked like a flour sack. The youngest stood on shaking legs, couldn't have been more than 2, gripping the coat of the child beside him. "Mr. Mercer." The woman's voice cracked like breaking ice. "I'm Clara Whitmore. I was told—" She stopped, swallowed. "I was told you were a fair man." Elijah didn't move. Couldn't move. 8 years of silence in this house, and now the porch was full of ghosts. "Ma'am, it's 6 below zero. You walked here. From town." Her chin lifted despite her trembling. "The hotel turned us out. Said they don't house. They called us vagrants, Mr. Mercer. My children aren't vagrants." The infant in the oldest girl's arms let out a weak cry. Not the lusty wail of a healthy baby, a thin mewling sound that cut straight through Elijah's chest. "Get inside." The words came out rough. "All of you, now." Clara hesitated. Her eyes searched his face for something, threat maybe, or mockery. She'd learned to look for it. He could see that in the way she held herself like a dog that had been kicked too many times. "I can pay," she said quickly. "Not money, but I can work. I can cook, clean, mend anything. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for a chance." "Ma'am." Elijah stepped back, opening the door wider. "Your baby's lips are blue. We can talk about payment when your children ain't freezing to death." Something broke in her face, just for a moment, a crack in the wall she'd built. "Children," she said, and her voice went steady, the way it probably always did when they needed her. "Go inside. Quickly now. Mind your manners." They filed past him like soldiers, silent and watchful. The older ones kept their eyes down. The little ones stared at everything: the stone fireplace, the leather furniture, the sheer size of the main room. Elijah remembered hunger. Remembered being a boy with nothing, looking at everything. The oldest girl, the one with the baby, stopped in front of him. She met his eyes directly, and he saw something fierce there, protective. "I'm Abigail," she said. "The baby's name is Samuel. He's 3 months old." Her voice hardened. "He's not strong, Mr. Mercer. If you're going to throw us out, do it now before he gets warm." "Abby." Clara's voice carried warning. "I ain't throwing anyone out." Elijah looked at the infant's face, at the slightly blue tinge around its mouth. "How long since he ate?" "Mama's milk dried up 2 weeks ago." Abigail's jaw tightened. "We've been giving him sugar water when we can get it." Elijah felt something cold settle in his stomach. Sugar water. For a 3-month-old. In the dead of winter. "I've got a goat in the barn. She's milking." He moved toward the kitchen. "Abigail, come with me. The rest of you sit by the fire. Don't touch anything you don't need to." He heard Clara's sharp intake of breath. Heard her start to protest, probably something about not wanting her daughter alone with a strange man. He didn't blame her for it. "Ma'am, that baby needs milk in the next hour, or you're gonna lose him. I need someone who knows how to feed him while I warm it proper. You want to do it yourself, fine, but you can barely stand. So, which is it gonna be?" Clara looked at her daughter. Some silent communication passed between them. "Go, Abby," Clara said quietly. "Help him." The kitchen was cold. Elijah hadn't lit the stove yet this morning. He moved quickly, grabbing kindling, striking a match. His hands remembered the motions even when his mind was somewhere else. 8 years. 8 years of silence, and now his house was full of children. "Mr. Mercer." Abigail stood in the doorway, the baby against her chest. "Why are you helping us?" He didn't look up from the stove. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because no one else did." Her voice was flat, matter of fact. "The church gave us blankets, but said they couldn't keep us. The hotel owner said women like Mama bring trouble. The general store wouldn't even let us stand inside while Mama asked for work." The kindling caught. Elijah fed it carefully, building the flame. "Women like your mama," he repeated. "What's that mean? Widows with too many children and no money." Abigail shifted the baby, rocking him slightly. "We're a burden, Mr. Mercer. That's what everyone says. Too many mouths. Not enough hands." Elijah stood and faced her. 13 years old, maybe 14, with eyes that had seen too much. "Your daddy died recently." 6 months ago. Fever took him. No tears. She'd probably run out of those weeks ago. "He was a good man, worked himself into the ground trying to feed us. Mama says that's what killed him, really, not the fever, the trying." Elijah went to the cold box and pulled out a jar of goat's milk. He poured some into a small pot and set it on the stove to warm. 6 months, he said. "And you walked here from where? Nebraska originally. Mama heard there was work in Wyoming, jobs for women. We took a train as far as we could afford, then walked the rest. In winter. We didn't have a choice." Abigail's chin lifted. Same gesture as her mother. Same stubborn pride. It was walk or starve. At least walking we had a chance. The milk began to steam. Elijah tested it against his wrist, warm, but not hot. He found a clean cloth, twisted it tight, and dipped it in the milk. "Here." He held it out to Abigail. "Let him suck on that. Go slow. His stomach won't be used to real food." Abigail took the cloth and touched it to the baby's lips. For a moment, nothing. Then Samuel's mouth found it, and he began to suck weakly. "Oh." Abigail breathed. "Oh, he's taking it." Elijah watched the baby feed. 3 months old and already fighting for his life. Behind him he could hear the other children in the main room, shuffling feet, whispered voices, a small cough. 9 children. A widow who'd walked through a winter night rather than let them freeze. He thought of Martha, thought of the baby they'd lost, the life that had ended before it began. "Keep feeding him slow," he said. "I'm going to see to your mama." Clara Whitmore sat exactly where he'd left her, in the chair closest to the fire. She hadn't taken off her shawl, hadn't stopped shivering. The other children had arranged themselves around the room, some on the floor, some on the sofa, all of them watching their mother with the same worried eyes. "Baby's eating," Elijah said. "Goat's milk. He's taking it good." Clara's eyes closed, her hands pressed together like she was praying. "Thank you." The words came out broken. "I thought I was afraid." "When did you last eat, ma'am?" She opened her eyes, looked at him. "The children ate yesterday. Mrs. Parker at the church gave us bread." "That ain't what I asked." Silence. One of the middle children, a boy about 7, spoke up. "Mama gave us her share. She said she wasn't hungry." Clara shot the boy a look, but it was too late. Elijah had seen her face. "You." He pointed at the oldest boy, maybe 11. "What's your name?" "Thomas, sir." "Thomas, there's a pump out back and a stack of firewood by the barn. Think you can haul some water and wood inside?" The boy straightened. "Yes, sir." "Good man. Take a couple of your brothers." 3 boys scrambled up, eager to have a purpose. Elijah watched them go, then turned to the remaining children. "The rest of you stay here. Keep warm." He looked at Clara. Ma'am, come with me. The children ain't going anywhere, and you need to eat something before you fall over. He led her to the kitchen where Abigail was still feeding Samuel. The baby had more color now, his sucking stronger. He's doing better, Abigail said. He finished the whole cloth. I think he wants more. Give him more, not too fast. Elijah pulled out a chair and pointed at it. Mrs. Whitmore, sit. Clara sat. Her movements were stiff, mechanical, like a puppet whose strings were fraying. Elijah moved around the kitchen, pulling out bread, cheese, dried meat. Cold food. The stove wasn't hot enough yet for cooking, but it was food, and she needed it now. He set the plate in front of her. She stared at it. Mr. Mercer, I can't eat. You don't understand. I haven't paid you anything. I can't just... Ma'am. Elijah sat down across from her. I'm gonna say this once, and I need you to hear it. You walked 6 miles in weather that kills cattle. You're still standing. Your children are alive. You did that. He pushed the plate closer. Now eat so you can keep doing it. Clara's hand trembled as she reached for the bread. She took a bite, then another. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she didn't stop eating. Abigail watched her mother, then looked at Elijah. That fierce protectiveness in her eyes had shifted into something else. Uncertainty, maybe. Hope. The children, Clara managed between bites. They need... I'll feed them. Got enough in the pantry for an army. You just focus on that plate. She ate. Elijah let her, saying nothing. When the boys came back with water and wood, he set them to work helping Abigail with the baby, then started cooking in earnest. Eggs, bacon, biscuits, everything he could make fast. The children ate like they'd forgotten what real food tasted like. They probably had. Even the little ones who could barely hold their spoons cleaned their plates. Clara watched them eat. Her tears had dried, but her eyes were bright. Mr. Mercer, she said quietly, you have to understand our situation. My husband... She stopped, started again. Frank was a good man. He worked our farm in Nebraska until there was nothing left of him. When he died, the bank took the land. We had nowhere to go. No family. None that would have us. 9 children, Mr. Mercer. Her voice carried old bitterness. My own sister said she couldn't take that burden. Frank's brother said the same. Elijah thought about that. Family turning away family. Children treated like livestock to be disposed of. What about the children's father, I mean? He paused. The baby, Samuel. He's only 3 months. Clara's face went still. Frank is Samuel's father. He was conceived before... She swallowed. Frank never got to meet him. He died 2 weeks before Samuel was born. Something twisted in Elijah's chest. A woman already grieving giving birth alone, then walking across 2 states with an infant and 8 other children. I'm not asking for pity, Clara said quickly, reading his expression. I'm asking for work, a place to stay while I find something permanent. I'll do anything, Mr. Mercer, anything honest. You cook? Yes. Clean? Yes. Mend clothes? Handle livestock? Keep a house running? Yes. All of it. Elijah leaned back in his chair, looked at this woman, thin, exhausted, with worn-through boots and a spine made of iron. This is a big house, he said. Too big for one man. I got ranch hands for the cattle, but nobody to manage the house since... He stopped. For 8 years, place is falling apart. Clara's breath caught. Are you offering me a job? Room and board for you and the children. Fair wages on top of it. You work for me, I'll treat you right. Anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me. He paused. That suit you? Clara stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Abigail spoke instead. Mama? Her voice was urgent. Mama, say yes. Clara's voice broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting for composure. When she could speak again, it came out as a whisper. Why? Why would you do this for strangers? Elijah stood and walked to the window. Outside, snow was falling again, covering the footprints that led to his door. 8 years ago, he said, my wife died. Martha. She was carrying our first child. He didn't look at Clara. Couldn't. I buried them both on the hill behind the barn. Then I built this house. Every room, every board, I built it for her. For them. He turned back. Clara's face had gone soft with understanding. The understanding of someone who knew grief. This house has been empty for 8 years, Mrs. Whitmore. I filled it with cattle and land deals and work. Told myself that was enough. He looked past her at the children in the main room, some playing now, some sleeping by the fire. Maybe it wasn't. Clara rose slowly from her chair. She stood in front of him, this woman who had walked through the night to save her children. Mr. Mercer. Her voice was steady now. I accept your offer, and I promise you we will earn our place here. Every one of us. She held out her hand. Elijah looked at it. Rough from work, thin from hunger, but steady. He took it. Welcome to the Mercer Ranch, Mrs. Whitmore. Her grip was stronger than he expected. So was the feeling that spread through his chest when she smiled, a real smile, fragile but genuine. Clara, she said. Please, call me Clara. Elijah. They stood there for a moment, hands clasped, while the fire crackled and the children's voices filled the house. For the first time in 8 years, Elijah Mercer didn't feel alone. And that terrified him more than anything. Come. That night, after the children were settled in the guest rooms, 3 to a bed but warm and fed. Elijah sat on the porch in the dark. The snow had stopped. Stars spread across the sky like scattered diamonds. The door opened behind him. Clara stepped out wrapped in a blanket. You should be sleeping, he said. I could say the same to you. She stood beside him, looking out at the night. I couldn't settle. Too quiet. Quiet. In a good way. The children are safe, fed, warm. Her voice caught. I'd forgotten what that felt like, knowing they were safe. Elijah didn't respond, didn't know what to say. Can I ask you something, Mr. Mercer? Elijah? Go ahead. When you looked at us on that porch, 9 children, a widow with nothing, what did you see? He thought about it, thought about that moment when he'd opened the door and found the world waiting on his threshold. I saw a woman who wouldn't quit, he said finally, who'd walk through hell itself for her children. I saw 9 kids who didn't ask to be cold or hungry, but were too brave to cry about it. I saw... He stopped. What, a second chance? The words surprised him. For you. Maybe for me, too. I don't know. Clara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. My husband used to say I was too stubborn for my own good. Said I didn't know when to give up. Sounds like a smart man. He was. She pulled the blanket tighter. He would have liked you, I think. He would have said you're a good man. Elijah shook his head. I'm just a man, ma'am. Nothing good or bad about it. You opened your door. Anyone would have. No. Her voice went hard. They wouldn't. We knocked on 6 doors in town before someone told us about you. 6 doors, Elijah, and every single one closed in our faces. She turned to look at him. You're the only one who let us in. The weight of that settled on him. 6 doors, 9 children freezing in the snow, while people who called themselves Christians turned away. Then they'll answer for that, he said quietly. Not to me, but to someone. Clara reached out and touched his arm. Brief, light, but it burned through his coat like a brand. Thank you, she said, for everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already are. This house needed life in it again. He looked at her, at the starlight in her hair and the strength in her face. You brought that back. She smiled, that same fragile, genuine smile. Good night, Elijah. Good night, Clara. She went inside. The door closed softly behind her. Elijah sat alone on the porch listening to the silence that wasn't quite silence anymore. Somewhere in the house a child laughed in their sleep. Another one coughed. Small sounds. Human sounds. He thought of Martha. Thought of the promise he'd made at her grave that he'd never love again, never risk that kind of loss. He'd kept that promise for 8 years. Now, watching his breath fog in the cold air, he wondered if promises made in grief were meant to be kept forever. He didn't know the answer. But for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. The first week passed like a fever dream. Clara had never seen children work so hard without being asked. Thomas hauled water before dawn. Abigail managed the younger ones with military precision. Even the little ones found ways to help, folding blankets, stacking firewood, keeping the floors swept. "They're afraid," Clara told Elijah on the third morning, watching her children scatter to their tasks. "Afraid if they don't prove their worth, you'll send us away." "I ain't sending anyone away." "I know that. They don't. Not yet." Elijah watched Thomas struggling with a water bucket too heavy for his thin arms. Without a word, he walked over and took one side of the handle. "Let me show you a trick," he said. "Balance it against your hip. Uses less strength." Thomas looked up at him with suspicious eyes. "My pa used to do it that way." "Smart man, your pa." Something shifted in the boy's face. Not trust, not yet. But the beginning of it. Clara felt her chest tighten. 6 months since Frank died and Thomas hadn't mentioned him once. Not to anyone. The grief had gone underground, buried so deep she'd feared it might never surface. Now here was this stranger, this quiet rancher with sad eyes, pulling it out with a simple sentence. "Mr. Mercer." Thomas's voice cracked. "Did you know my pa?" "No, son. But I know a good man's work when I see it. You got his hands. Working hands." Thomas stared at his own palms. Rough for an 11-year-old. Calloused. "He said I was going to be strong like him someday." "You already are." The bucket sat forgotten between them. Thomas's shoulders began to shake. One sob escaped, just one, before he clamped it down. Elijah didn't say anything. Just put a hand on the boy's shoulder and let it rest there. Clara turned away, pressing her fist to her mouth. She couldn't watch. Couldn't bear the sight of her son finally breaking, finally letting the grief out. Couldn't bear the sight of a stranger doing what she'd tried to do for 6 months and failed. That afternoon, she found Elijah in the barn, brushing down his horse. Samuel was strapped to her chest, sleeping peacefully after his feeding. The goat's milk was working miracles. His color had improved, his cries had grown stronger. "I need to thank you," she said, "for what you did with Thomas." Elijah didn't look up. "Didn't do anything." "You did everything. He hasn't cried since Frank died. Not once. I've been so worried. Boys that age think crying is weakness. Someone's got to show them it ain't. And you showed him. I lost my wife." Elijah's brushstrokes slowed. "Took me 3 years before I could say her name without my voice breaking. 3 years of holding it in, thinking that made me strong." He finally met her eyes. "It didn't. Just made me alone." Clara stepped closer. Samuel stirred against her chest, then settled. "What was she like, Martha?" The name hung in the air between them. Elijah's jaw tightened, and for a moment Clara thought she'd pushed too far. "She was sunlight," he said quietly. "That's the only way I can describe it. Everything she touched got brighter. This house, this land, I built it all for her. She never got to see it finished." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." He resumed brushing. "Besides, you got enough sorry of your own to carry. Don't need to take on mine." Clara almost laughed. "Is it that obvious? You walked 6 miles in a blizzard with 9 children? That ain't the action of a woman with nothing left to lose. That's the action of a woman who's already lost everything and decided to fight anyway." The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. She'd never thought of it that way, never framed her desperation as courage. I didn't feel brave, she admitted. I felt terrified. Every step I thought, this is it. This is where we die. But then I'd look at their faces and I'd think, not yet, not today. That's what brave is, Clara. Elijah set down the brush. Being scared and doing it anyway. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, recognition maybe. The understanding of two people who'd walked through fire and come out scarred, but standing. Samuel woke with a cry. The moment shattered. I should feed him, Clara said quickly. There's warm milk in the kitchen. I heated it earlier. She paused at the barn door. Elijah. Yeah. Thank you, for everything. But especially for seeing me. Not just the widow with 9 children, me. She left before he could respond. Elijah stood alone in the barn, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in 8 years. Damn, he whispered to his horse. I'm in trouble. The second week brought the town. Clara had known it was coming, had felt it building like a storm on the horizon. Clearwater was a small community, and small communities fed on gossip like wolves on fresh meat. Elijah had gone to town for supplies. He'd asked her to come, but she'd refused. Not yet, she'd said. I'm not ready to face them. You don't have to face anyone. I'll be right there. That's exactly why I can't go. She'd looked away. A widow living in a bachelor's home, 9 children underfoot. You know what they'll say. I know what they can do with what they say. Elijah. She'd touched his arm, brief, gentle. Your reputation matters here. You've built something. Don't let me destroy it. He'd gone alone. That was 3 hours ago. Now Clara stood at the kitchen window, watching the road, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. Mama! Abigail appeared beside her. Ryder coming. Clara's heart seized. Is it? Not Mr. Mercer, someone else, a woman. Clara wiped her hands on her apron and moved toward the door. By the time she opened it, the rider had reached the porch, a stout woman in her 50s, with a face like carved granite. Mrs. Whitmore, I presume. The woman didn't dismount, just sat there, looking down at Clara with cold eyes. Yes, ma'am. Can I help you? I'm Margaret Holloway. My husband is the minister at Clearwater Baptist. She paused. I believe you spent a night in our church, without permission. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. We were desperate. The hotel had turned us out and the children were freezing. I'm not here to discuss your reasons. I'm here to discuss your situation. Mrs. Holloway's gaze swept over the house behind Clara. Living in the home of an unmarried man. Quite the scandal, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm his housekeeper, nothing more. Is that so? And your children? Are they his housekeepers too? Clara's hands balled into fists at her sides. My children are innocent, are. If you have something to say about me, say it. But leave them out of this. Mrs. Holloway smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. I came to deliver a message. The women of Clearwater Baptist have discussed your situation. We've decided that your presence in this community is inappropriate. For everyone's sake, it would be best if you moved on. Moved on to where? That's not our concern. And if I refuse, Mrs. Holloway's smile widened. Then I suppose we'll have to take more direct action. Good day, Mrs. Whitmore. She turned her horse and rode away without looking back. Clara stood on the porch, shaking with rage and fear. Behind her, she heard small footsteps. Mama. It was Emma, her 8-year-old. Who was that lady? Clara took a breath, steadied herself. No one important, sweetheart. Go back inside. But Emma didn't move. Her small face was serious, older than her years. She was mean to you, wasn't she? I could hear it in her voice. Clara knelt down and took her daughter's hands. Some people are afraid of things they don't understand. That lady doesn't understand us. That's all. Are we going to have to leave? No, baby. We're not leaving. Clara pulled Emma into a hug, holding her tight. I promise. But even as she said it, Doubt crept into her heart. How long could they stay in a place that didn't want them? Elijah returned at dusk, his wagon loaded with supplies. Clara met him at the barn, her face tight with worry. "What happened?" he asked immediately. Mrs. Holloway came, the minister's wife. Elijah's expression darkened. "What did she want?" Clara told him. Every word, every threat, every implication. By the time she finished, Elijah's jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. "She said that, to your face." "She said worse. She said my presence was inappropriate, that I should move on." "And what did you say?" "I told her I wasn't leaving." Something flickered in Elijah's eyes, pride maybe, or admiration. "Good," he said, "because you're not. Elijah, you don't understand. These people, they can make things difficult, for you, for your business, let them try." He stepped closer, and Clara realized suddenly how tall he was, how solid. "I've been in this territory for 15 years, built this ranch from nothing. You think I'm scared of Margaret Holloway and her church gossip? I think you should be. People like her, they don't fight fair." "Neither do I, not when something matters." He held her gaze. "You matter, Clara, you and those children, and anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "Why? Why do you care so much?" "Because I know what it's like to be alone, to have everyone look at you and see a problem instead of a person." His voice roughened. "And because 8 years ago I would have given anything for someone to fight for me. No one did, so I stopped asking." He turned away, started unhitching the horses. "Martha died and people came to the funeral, said all the right things. So sorry for your loss. She's in a better place." Then they went home and forgot. One by one they stopped coming around, stopped asking how I was. After a while I stopped expecting them to. Clara moved closer, put her hand on his arm. "Elijah, I'm not going to do that to you." He turned back and she saw the raw honesty in his eyes. "I'm not going to say the right things and then disappear. You need help, I'll help you. You need protection, I'll protect you. You need—" He stopped, swallowed. "What?" "You need a home. I got one. It's that simple." Clara felt something crack open in her chest, something she'd kept locked away since Frank died, since before that even. Hope, dangerous, terrifying hope. "It's not simple," she whispered. "Nothing about this is simple." "I know." He covered her hand with his. "But maybe it doesn't have to be." They stood there in the fading light, his hand warm over hers, the horses shifting quietly beside them. "Mama?" Thomas's voice cut through the moment. "Mama, come quick! It's Samuel!" Clara's blood turned to ice. She ran. Samuel was in Abigail's arms, his tiny body rigid, his face an alarming shade of red. He wasn't crying, wasn't making any sound at all. "He was fine," Abigail gasped. "He was eating, and then he stopped breathing." Clara grabbed the baby. His lips were tinged with blue. His eyes were open but unfocused. "He's choking." Elijah was beside her instantly. "Turn him over. Pat his back." Clara flipped Samuel onto her forearm face down and struck his back firmly between the shoulder blades. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. "Harder," Elijah said. "You won't hurt him." She hit harder. Samuel's body jerked, and then a spray of milk erupted from his mouth, followed by a thin, wailing cry. Clara sagged with relief. The baby screamed in her arms, healthy and furious and alive. "Thank God." Abigail was sobbing. "Thank God, thank God." Clara looked at Elijah. His face was white. "How did you know?" she asked. "How did you know what to do?" He didn't answer right away, just stood there staring at the baby. "Elijah, Martha." he said finally. When we were expecting, I read every book I could find, medical books, farm journals, anything. His voice broke. I wanted to be ready. For anything. Clara understood then, understood the depth of what he'd lost, and the weight of what he still carried. You saved him, she said. You saved my son. Elijah shook his head. You saved him. I just told you how. But Clara knew better, and from the look in Abigail's eyes, her daughter knew too. This man, this quiet, broken, generous man, had just become something more than their benefactor. He'd become family, whether he was ready for it or not. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She sat by Samuel's crib, a beautiful wooden thing Elijah had pulled from storage, covered in dust and memory, and watched her baby breathe. In and out. In and out. She'd almost lost him. Almost lost another piece of Frank, another piece of her heart. The door creaked. Elijah stood in the hallway, a lamp in his hand. Can't sleep either, she asked quietly. Heard you moving around. Wanted to make sure everything was all right. He's fine, sleeping peacefully. She looked up at him. Because of you. Elijah set the lamp on the dresser and leaned against the doorframe. In the soft light, she could see the exhaustion in his face. The worry. That crib, she said. It was for your baby, wasn't it? A long pause. Yeah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. We can use something else. No. His voice was firm. That crib was made for a child. It should hold one. He looked at Samuel's sleeping face. Martha would have wanted that. Clara stood and walked to where he stood. Close. Too close, maybe. But she needed him to hear this. You're a good man, Elijah Mercer, the best I've ever known besides Frank. And I know... She took a breath. I know you built walls around yourself after Martha died. I know you're afraid of letting anyone in. But I need you to know something. What's that? Whatever you're feeling right now, whatever's scaring you, you're not alone in it. His breath caught. Clara. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting anything. She pressed her hand to his chest, feeling his heart pound beneath her palm. I needed you to know. They stood there frozen in the lamplight. Clara could feel the heat of him, the tension in his body, could see the war in his eyes. Then he covered her hand with his. I'm no good at this, he said roughly. I've been alone too long. I've forgotten how to what? How to want something, someone. His fingers tightened around hers. I look at you and I feel things I thought I'd buried with Martha. It scares the hell out of me. I know, it scares me too. Then why are you here? Why are you standing so close? Clara smiled. It felt like the first real smile she'd worn in months. Because I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. The words hung between them. An echo of something he'd said to her thrown back like a lifeline. Elijah's other hand came up, touched her face, gentle, reverent. Clara Whitmore, he whispered. What are you doing to me? The same thing you're doing to me. He kissed her then, soft, tender, a question and an answer all at once. Clara kissed him back, and for one perfect moment, the world fell away. Then Samuel cried, and they broke apart, breathless and shaking. We should, Clara started. Yeah. Elijah stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. Yeah, we should. But neither of them moved. This changes things, Clara said. You know that, right? I know. The town already thinks the worst of us. If they find out, let them think what they want. Elijah's voice hardened. I've spent 8 years caring what people thought. Where did it get me an empty house and a cold bed? I'm done living like that. And what about the children, if this goes wrong? If. He cupped her face in his hands. That's a lot of weight to put on one word. It's the only word that matters. No, it isn't. He kissed her forehead. The word that matters is when. When we stop being afraid. When we start living again. When we let ourselves be happy. He pulled back enough to look into her eyes. I choose when, Clara. I choose now. Clara felt the last of her resistance crumble. I'm still scared, she admitted. So am I. But I meant what I said. I'd rather be scared with you. She leaned into him, letting his arms wrap around her. Solid, strong, real. What do we do now? She asked. Now we go to bed. Separate beds, he added, almost smiling. And tomorrow we figure out the rest. That easy. That hard. He released her slowly. But I reckon we're both stubborn enough to manage. Clara laughed, a real laugh surprised out of her. Get some sleep, Elijah said. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Why? His smile faded. Because tomorrow I'm going to town, and I'm going to have a conversation with Mrs. Margaret Holloway. Clara's stomach tightened. Elijah! No one threatens my family. His eyes were hard now, determined. No one. He left before she could respond. Clara stood in the doorway, Samuel sleeping peacefully behind her, and realized that somewhere in the last 2 weeks, everything had changed. She'd come to this ranch desperate and broken, asking for nothing but a chance. She'd found so much more. Now she just had to figure out how to keep it. The conversation with Margaret Holloway came sooner than expected. Elijah rode into Clearwater at first light, his mind clear and his purpose set. He'd faced down rustlers, survived droughts, buried his wife and unborn child. He wasn't about to be intimidated by a minister's wife with a sharp tongue and a small mind. He found her at the church, arranging flowers on the altar. She looked up when he entered, and her face went hard. Mr. Mercer, to what do I owe this visit? You came to my home yesterday, spoke to Mrs. Whitmore. I did. Don't do it again. Mrs. Holloway set down her flowers. I beg your pardon. You heard me. Elijah stepped closer, and he saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. Good. That woman has been through more than you can imagine. Her children have suffered enough. And you rode out there to threaten them, to tell them they weren't welcome. I was speaking for the community. No, you were speaking for yourself, and whatever small, ugly thing lives inside you that makes you think you're better than a widow with nothing. His voice dropped. I know people like you, Mrs. Holloway. I've known them my whole life. You don't care about decency or propriety. You care about control. And when someone threatens that control, someone like Clara Whitmore, who refuses to be ashamed, you try to destroy them. Mrs. Holloway's face flushed red. How dare you? How dare I? How dare you? That woman walked through a blizzard to save her children. She's worked harder in 2 weeks than you've worked in your entire life. And you had the nerve to ride out to my home and call her inappropriate. She's living in your house unmarried with 9 children. What would you have me think? I'd have you think that maybe, just maybe not. Everything is about what it looks like. I'd have you think that Christian charity means helping people in need, not casting them out in the cold. Elijah leaned in close. And I'd have you think very carefully about what happens if you ever go near her or those children again. Mrs. Holloway stared at him. Her lips trembled. Are you threatening me, Mr. Mercer? I'm making you a promise. Leave them alone. That's all I'm asking. Leave them alone, and we'll have no trouble. He turned and walked out without looking back. Behind him, he heard Mrs. Holloway's sharp intake of breath, heard her footsteps as she hurried toward the back of the church, probably to find her husband to complain to Plot. Let her. Elijah Mercer had made his choice. Now he would live with it. When he got home, Clara was waiting on the porch. Her face was pale. There's been a letter, she said, from Nebraska. She held it out with shaking hands. Elijah took it, read it, and felt the ground drop out from under him. Clara, this says, I know what it says. The letter was from a lawyer in Omaha. Frank Whitmore's brother was contesting the estate, claiming Clara had no right to the children, claiming she was an unfit mother, claiming he intended to take custody of all 9. Clara's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She read the letter again, then again. The words blurred, but their meaning stayed sharp as broken glass. He can't do this. Her voice came out strangled. Harold never wanted anything to do with us. When Frank died, he said we were on our own. He said, what exactly did he say? Clara closed her eyes, remembered that cold day in Nebraska standing at Frank's grave while Harold Whitmore looked at her like she was dirt on his boots. He said Frank was a fool to marry beneath his station, said I'd dragged him down, said he wanted nothing to do with me or my brood of mouths to feed. She opened her eyes. Those were his exact words, Elijah. And now he wants custody. Elijah read the letter again. His jaw tightened. This ain't about the children. This is about money. What money? We have nothing. You said Frank's family was wealthy. His father was, made a fortune in railroads. But Frank was disowned when he married me. He never saw a penny of it. The father. He's still alive. Clara's breath caught. I don't know. Frank stopped speaking of him years ago. Elijah set the letter down. If the old man died, Frank might have been in the will, which means his children, your children, could be heirs. The realization hit Clara like a punch to the stomach. That's why Harold wants them. Not because he cares. Because they're worth something. People like him don't care about children. They care about what children can give them. Elijah's voice was hard. I've seen it before. Rich families fighting over inheritance like dogs over scraps. What do? I can't fight a lawyer. I can't. You don't have to. Elijah took her hands, steadied them. I know a man in Cheyenne, best lawyer in the territory. If there's a way to fight this, he'll find it. Elijah, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. His grip tightened. Those children are not going anywhere. You understand me. Not while I'm breathing. Clara felt tears spill down her cheeks. Why? Why do you keep doing this for us? You know why. She did. God help her, she did. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. But we're gonna fight this. Together. Together. The word wrapped around her like a blanket. Okay, she breathed. Okay. But even as she said it, fear coiled in her stomach like a snake. Harold Whitmore had money, power, connections. What did she have? A borrowed home, a borrowed life, and a man who might love her but couldn't protect her from the law. It wasn't enough. It couldn't be enough. The next morning, Elijah rode to Cheyenne. He'd wanted Clara to come, but she'd refused. The children needed her. Samuel was still fragile, and truthfully, she couldn't bear to sit in a lawyer's office and hear all the ways she might lose everything. So she waited. Abigail found her in the kitchen scrubbing the same pot for the 3rd time. Mama, you're going to wear a hole through it. Clara stopped, looked at her hands, red and raw from the hot water. I'm sorry, I'm just worried. I know. Abigail took the pot from her. We all are. You heard. Thomas told me. He was listening at the door. Abigail's face was serious. Uncle Harold really wants to take us. Clara pulled her daughter into her arms, held her tight. He wants to try, but he won't succeed. I won't let him. How can you stop him? He's rich. We're survivors. Clara pulled back, cupping Abigail's face. We walked through a blizzard. We found this place. We found Elijah. And we're not going to let some greedy man in a fancy suit tear us apart. But what if? No what ifs. Not today. Clara forced a smile. Today we work. We take care of the little ones. We keep this house running, and when Elijah comes back, we figure out our next move. Abigail nodded slowly. Mama. Yes, sweetheart. Do you love him, Mr. Mercer? The question hung in the air. Clara's heart pounded. I think, she said carefully, that I could, if I let myself. Then let yourself. Abigail's eyes were too old for 14. Papa would want you to be happy. He told me once before he got sick, he said if anything ever happened to him, he wanted you to find someone good, someone who'd take care of us. Clara's throat closed. He said that. He made me promise to remind you. I think. Abigail's voice wavered. I think he knew he wasn't going to make it. He just wanted to make sure we'd be okay. Clara couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Frank. Her sweet, stubborn, loving Frank. Even in his final days, he'd been thinking of them. He was a good man, she managed. He was. But Mr. Mercer is too. Abigail squeezed her mother's hands. And I think Papa would have liked him. Clara pulled her daughter close and let the tears come. Elijah returned at sunset. Clara saw his face before he spoke and knew the news wasn't good. What did the lawyer say? He didn't answer right away, just handed his horse's reins to Thomas and walked toward the house. Elijah. Inside, we need to talk. The children were gathered in the main room, the little ones playing by the fire, the older ones pretending not to listen. Clara sent them to their rooms, all except Abigail, who refused to leave. She's old enough to hear this, Clara said. Whatever it is. Elijah nodded slowly, sat down heavily in the chair by the fire. The lawyer, his name's Silas Reed. He's good, the best. But he told me the truth, and the truth ain't pretty. Just say it. Harold Whitmore has a case. Elijah's voice was flat. Under Nebraska law, next of kin can petition for custody if they can prove the current guardian is unfit. And Harold's lawyer is claiming exactly that. Unfit. Clara felt the word like a slap. On what grounds? Living in an unmarried man's home, no stable income, no property, no... He stopped. No what? No husband. Clara laughed. The sound was harsh, bitter. So because I'm a widow, I'm unfit to raise my own children. Because I'm poor. Because I had the audacity to survive. That's what they're claiming. Reed says it's weak, but it's enough to get a hearing. And once it goes to court, a judge decides. A judge decides. Clara's legs gave out. She sank onto the sofa, her mind reeling. When is the hearing? 3 weeks. They're sending someone from Nebraska to serve the papers. Elijah leaned forward. But Clara, listen to me. Reed has a plan. What plan could possibly... Marry me. The words dropped like stones into still water. Clara stared at him. What? If we're married, Harold's claim falls apart. You'd have a home, a husband's stability. No judge in the territory would take children away from a married couple on a successful ranch. Elijah, you can't... I can. I'm asking. He slid off the chair onto one knee. Clara Whitmore, I know this isn't how it should be done. I know we barely know each other. But I also know that I haven't felt alive in 8 years, not until you knocked on my door. And I know those children deserve a home, a real home, with 2 people who'll fight for them. Clara's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. You'd do this, marry a woman with 9 children not just to anything. His voice roughened. I'd marry you because I want to. Because somewhere between that first morning and right now, you became the thing I didn't know I was waiting for. Tears blurred Clara's vision. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Abigail's voice cut through the moment. She was crying too. Mama, say yes. Clara looked at her daughter, looked at Elijah, looked at the life she could have, the life they could all have. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Elijah's face broke into a smile. The first real smile she'd ever seen from him. He pulled her into his arms and held her like she was something precious, something worth keeping. I won't let them take your children, he murmured into her hair. I swear it. Clara believed him. She had to believe him, because the alternative was unthinkable. The wedding was set for the following Sunday. There was no time for a proper ceremony, no time for a dress or flowers or any of the things Clara had dreamed of when she was young. But she didn't care. All that mattered was the piece of paper that would make her Elijah's wife. That would make her children safe. The minister, Mrs. Holloway's husband, refused to perform the ceremony. "I cannot in good conscience bless this union," he said, his voice dripping with false piety. "It's unseemly. A widow barely 3 weeks in town marrying a man she hardly knows. It reeks of desperation." Desperation. Elijah stepped forward, and Clara saw the minister flinch. "You mean like the desperation of a mother trying to keep her children? The desperation of a man who's been alone for 8 years and finally found something worth living for?" "Mr. Mercer, please." "Save your breath, Reverend. I know what you and your wife think of us. I know what this whole town thinks. But I'm going to marry Clara Whitmore with or without your blessing. So you can either do your job, or you can explain to your congregation why you turned away 2 people who came to you in good faith." The minister's face went pale, then red. "Fine," he spat. "Sunday, noon. But don't expect me to be happy about it." "I don't expect anything from you." Elijah took Clara's hand. "Come on, we're done here." They walked out of the church together, past the staring eyes and whispering mouths. Clara's hand trembled in Elijah's grip. That was necessary. He squeezed her fingers. "You all right?" "I don't know. I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Maybe nothing will." "Things always go wrong, Elijah. That's what life has taught me." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "Then, let me teach you something different. Let me show you that sometimes, not always, but sometimes things go right. People find each other. Families heal. Second chances happen." Clara looked into his eyes, saw the hope there, fragile but real. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it, just for today. Tomorrow can take care of itself." She took a breath, let it out slowly. "Okay, just for today." He kissed her forehead, gentle, tender. "That's my girl." They walked home together hand in hand while the winter sun sank toward the mountains. For one perfect moment, Clara let herself believe. The papers arrived on Saturday, one day before the wedding. Clara was in the kitchen when Thomas burst through the door, white-faced and shaking. "Mama, there's a man, on a horse. He says—" The door opened behind him. A stranger stepped inside, tall and thin, dressed in city clothes that looked wrong against the ranch backdrop. "Mrs. Clara Whitmore." "Yes. I'm Jonathan Price, attorney for Harold Whitmore of Omaha, Nebraska." He held out a folded document. "You are hereby served notice of custody proceedings regarding the minor children of the late Frank Whitmore. You are required to appear before the district court in Omaha on February 15th to answer charges of get out." Elijah's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stood in the doorway, his face dark with fury. The lawyer didn't flinch. "Mr. Mercer, I presume I'm simply doing my job?" "Your job is to tear children from their mother. That's not a job. That's cruelty." "The law is the law, sir, and your arrangement with Mrs. Whitmore doesn't change the fundamental question of fitness." "What arrangement?" "Come now." The lawyer smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "An unmarried woman living in a bachelor's home with 9 children. The court will draw its own conclusions." "We're getting married tomorrow." The lawyer's smile widened. "How convenient. I'm sure the judge will be impressed by your timing." Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. He was right. A sudden marriage one day before court papers arrived, it would look exactly like what it was. Desperation. "Get out of my house." Elijah's voice was low, dangerous. "Now." "I'm going. But Mrs. Whitmore—" The lawyer turned to her. "A word of advice. Harold Whitmore has resources you cannot imagine. He has connections in every court from here to Washington. If you fight this, you will lose. And you will lose everything." He tipped his hat and walked out. Clara stood frozen. The papers felt like poison in her hands. Clara. Elijah was beside her. Clara, look at me. She could only stare at the words on the page. Unfit mother. Unstable environment. Best interests of the children. They're going to take them. Her voice came out hollow. They're going to take my babies. No, they're not. You heard him. The timing, the marriage, it looks. I don't care how it looks. Elijah took the papers from her hands. We're getting married tomorrow. And then we're going to fight. Fight how he has money. He has lawyers. He doesn't have us. Elijah gripped her shoulders. He doesn't have a mother who walked through hell for her children. He doesn't have a community, well, most of a community, who knows the truth about who you are. And he doesn't have me. Elijah, I lost my wife. I lost my child. I'm not losing you. Not you, not those kids, not this family we're building. His eyes burned into hers. Do you understand me? I will burn down everything I've built before I let that man take what's ours. Clara stared at him. At this man who'd been a stranger 3 weeks ago, who'd opened his door and his heart and his life. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Because you're my second chance. His voice cracked. Martha, I loved her. I'll always love her. But she's gone, and I spent 8 years dying with her. Then you showed up on my porch half frozen carrying a baby with 8 more children behind you. And I thought, here's another chance. Here's a reason to live. Tears streamed down Clara's face. I'm not Martha. I know you're not. I don't want you to be. He cupped her face in his hands. I want you to be Clara. Stubborn, brave, beautiful Clara. The woman who wouldn't quit. The woman who saved her children. The woman who's saving me. Clara broke. She fell into his arms and sobbed great heaving sobs that tore out of her chest. All the fear, all the grief, all the desperate hope she'd been holding back came flooding out. Elijah held her, just held her, let her cry. When she finally quieted, he spoke again. Tomorrow we get married. Next week we go to Omaha, and we fight. And if we lose, we won't. But if we do, he was quiet for a long moment. Then we run. Take the children somewhere they can't find us. Start over. You'd give up everything. Your ranch. Your life here. None of it means anything without you. He pulled back, looked into her eyes. I'd rather have nothing with you than everything without. Clara felt something shift inside her. The last wall. The last defense. I love you, she said. I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first morning, maybe just now. But I love you, Elijah Mercer. His breath caught. Clara. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. I love you too. The words came out rough, unpracticed. I've been trying not to, telling myself it was too soon, too fast, too everything. Yeah. He almost smiled. Too everything. But I love you anyway. They stood there holding each other while the winter wind howled outside. Tomorrow would bring the wedding. Next week would bring the fight. But right now, in this moment, Clara let herself believe that everything might be okay. That love might be enough. That second chances weren't just dreams. The wedding was simple. No flowers. No music. No guests except the children and Elijah's foreman, a grizzled man named Hank, who'd worked the ranch for a decade. The minister spoke the words like they burned his mouth. His wife sat in the back pew, her face twisted with disapproval. Clara didn't care. She stood beside Elijah in a dress she'd mended twice, holding hands with the man who'd become her whole world. Do you, Elijah James Mercer, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Clara May Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara looked at her children lined up in the front pew. Thomas trying to look grown up. Abigail holding Samuel, tears streaming down her face. Emma bouncing with excitement. The twins Michael and Matthew squirming. Little Rose, 3 years old, not understanding but smiling anyway. And the babies Grace barely 2 and Samuel finally healthy, finally pink-cheeked and strong. Her family, her heart. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife. Elijah kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. The children cheered. Even Hank cracked a smile. And Clara Mercer, no longer. Whitmore, no longer alone, felt hope bloom in her chest like spring flowers pushing through frozen ground. They walked out of the church together, the children swarming around them. Are you really our papa now? Emma asked Elijah, tugging his hand. I reckon I am. Does that mean we get to stay forever? Forever and a day. Emma threw her arms around his waist. The other children piled on a tangle of arms and laughter and joy. Clara watched, her heart so full she thought it might burst. This was what she'd walked through the snow for. This was what she'd fought for. This was everything. The courtroom in Omaha was cold. Clara sat beside Elijah, her hands folded in her lap, her heart hammering against her ribs. Silas Reed sat on her other side, shuffling papers, whispering last-minute instructions. Across the aisle, Harold Whitmore sat with his lawyer. He hadn't looked at Clara once, hadn't acknowledged she existed. The children were back at the ranch with Hank and Abigail. Clara had wanted to bring them, but Reed had advised against it. The judge doesn't need to see 9 scared faces, he'd said. He needs to see a capable mother with a stable home. Now Clara wasn't sure she looked like either. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Be seated. This is the matter of Whitmore versus Whitmore petition for custody of minor children. The judge, a gray-haired man with tired eyes, looked over his spectacles. Mr. Price, you may present your case. Harold's lawyer stood, smiled. Your Honor, the facts are simple. My client, Harold Whitmore, is the only surviving brother of the deceased Frank Whitmore. The children's mother, while no doubt well-intentioned, has proven herself incapable of providing stable care. She has no income, no property. She recently entered into a hasty marriage with a man she barely knows, a marriage that conveniently occurred one day before these proceedings were filed. Clara felt Elijah's hand find hers under the table. Mr. Whitmore offers these children a proper home, education, opportunity, everything their mother cannot provide. The lawyer sat down, still smiling. Reed stood. Your Honor, my client would like to speak for herself. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's irregular. Perhaps, but the court deserves to hear from the woman whose children are at stake, not from lawyers speaking on her behalf. A long pause. Very well. Mrs. Mercer, you may address the court. Clara's legs felt like water as she stood. Your Honor, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the right words to say, but I know my children. I've fed them when there was nothing to eat. I've carried them through snowstorms. I've held them while they cried for their father. Her voice broke. She steadied herself. Harold Whitmore didn't want us. When Frank died, he called us burdens. He refused to help. He refused even to attend his brother's funeral. And now that there might be money involved, now he wants custody. She looked directly at Harold. For the first time, he met her eyes. Those children don't know you. They've never met you. You're a stranger who wants to take them from the only parent they have left. Her voice hardened. I won't let that happen. I'll fight you with everything I have, and if that's not enough, I'll find more. She sat down. Her whole body was shaking. Elijah squeezed her hand. The judge was silent for a long moment. Mr. Whitmore, he said finally, do you have anything to say? Harold stood, smoothed his jacket. Your Honor, my late brother's wife is clearly emotional, understandable given the circumstances, but emotion isn't stability. I can offer these children the life they deserve, the life my brother would have wanted for them. And what life is that? education, proper society, a future. But not love. Harold blinked. I beg your pardon. Love Mr. Whitmore. Do you love these children? Silence. I barely know them, Your Honor, but I'm sure in time. That's enough. The judge leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Mercer, how far did you walk to reach Mr. Mercer's ranch? 6 miles, Your Honor. In a blizzard. With all 9 children. Yes, sir. And the baby, how old was he? 3 months. The judge nodded slowly. I've heard enough. I'll deliver my ruling in the morning. He stood and walked out. Clara couldn't breathe. What does that mean? She whispered to Reed. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Reed's face was unreadable. We wait. The night was the longest of Clara's life. She and Elijah stayed in a small hotel near the courthouse. Neither of them slept. They sat together in the dark, holding hands, waiting for dawn. Whatever happens, Elijah said, we face it together. What if they take them? They won't. But what if... Clara. He turned her face toward his. I made you a promise. I don't break my promises. She leaned into him. Let his warmth surround her. I'm so tired, she whispered. Tired of fighting. Tired of being scared. I know, but you're almost there. One more day, one more fight, and then it's over. You really believe that? I have to. He kissed her forehead. And so do you. Clara closed her eyes. One more day, one more fight. She could do this. She had to. The courtroom was packed the next morning. Word had spread. The town wanted to see the widow's fate decided. Clara sat beside Elijah, her heart in her throat. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Be seated. He shuffled his papers, looked over the room. I've considered this case carefully. On one side, we have a wealthy man offering material comfort. On the other, a mother with nothing but love and determination. He paused. In my experience, material comfort is easy to find. Love and determination are not. Clara stopped breathing. The petition for custody is denied. The children will remain with their mother. The courtroom erupted. Clara couldn't hear any of it. Could only feel Elijah's arms around her, could only taste her own tears, could only think one word over and over. Safe. Her children were safe. She looked across the aisle. Harold Whitmore's face was purple with rage. This isn't over, he snarled. I'll appeal. You'll do nothing. The judge's voice cracked like a whip. These children have a home, a family. Leave them in peace. Harold stormed out without another word. Clara turned to Elijah, threw her arms around him. We did it, she sobbed. We did it. You did it. He held her tight. You, Clara, your courage, your love, you saved them. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have. You would have. He pulled back, cupping her face. But I'm glad you didn't have to. Clara laughed through her tears. Take me home, she said. Take me home to our children. Elijah smiled. Yes, ma'am. The journey home felt different. Clara sat beside Elijah on the wagon seat, watching the winter landscape roll past. The same road they'd traveled to Omaha, but everything had changed. She was no longer Clara Whitmore, desperate widow. She was Clara Mercer, wife, and mother with a home waiting and children safe. You're quiet, Elijah said, just thinking. About everything, nothing. She leaned against his shoulder. I keep waiting to wake up, waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing's going wrong. Not today. How can you be so sure? He shifted the reins to one hand and put his arm around her. Because we earned this. Every mile you walked every night, you went hungry so your children could eat every time you refused to quit. This is what all that was for. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. happy tears for once. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." He kissed the top of her head. "Now let's go home." Home. The word had never sounded so sweet. The children saw the wagon from half a mile away. By the time Elijah pulled up to the house, all 9 of them were on the porch, Abigail holding Samuel, the others jostling for position. "Mama?" Emma was the first to break ranks, running toward the wagon before it stopped. "Mama, what happened? Did we win?" Clara jumped down and caught her daughter in her arms. "We won, sweetheart. We won." The other children swarmed her, hands grabbing, voices clamoring, everyone asking questions at once. "Does that mean we can stay? Is the bad man gone? Are we really safe?" "Yes," Clara said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes to all of it. We're safe. We're home. We're staying." Thomas hung back from the group. Clara noticed him standing apart, his face uncertain. She pushed through the smaller children and went to him. "Thomas, is it really over?" His voice cracked. "They can't come back. They can't take us. It's really over." She put her hands on his shoulders. "The judge said you belong with me, with us. No one can change that." Thomas's face crumpled. The 11-year-old who'd been trying so hard to be a man finally let himself be a boy again. He fell into Clara's arms and sobbed. "I was so scared, Mama. I tried not to be, but I was so scared." "I know, baby. I know." Elijah appeared beside them. He put a hand on Thomas's back. "You did good, son. Held things together while we were gone. Hank told me you worked harder than any man on this ranch." Thomas pulled back, wiping his face. "Really? Really, I'm proud of you." Something shifted in Thomas's eyes. The suspicion that had lingered there since the first day finally faded. "Thank you, sir. I mean—" He stumbled. "What do I call you now?" "Whatever feels right." Thomas thought for a moment. "Can I call you Pa?" Elijah's breath caught. Clara saw his eyes go bright. "Yeah," he said roughly. "You can call me Pa." Thomas threw his arms around Elijah. The big man stumbled back a step, then wrapped the boy in a fierce embrace. Clara watched, her heart so full it ached. This was her family. This was everything. That night, after the children were finally asleep, Clara and Elijah sat on the porch together. The stars were brilliant overhead, scattered across the black sky like diamonds on velvet. "I've been thinking," Elijah said, "about the future, our future." He turned to face her. "I want to adopt them, all of them, legally." Clara's breath caught. "Elijah? They should have my name, should be Mercer's officially, so no one can ever question that they belong here." "That's—" She couldn't find words. "That's a lot. 9 children." "I know what I'm signing up for." He took her hands. "I watched them these past weeks. Watched them work and play and fight and make up. Watched them become a family, my family. I don't want that to ever be in question. It's expensive. The legal fees alone. I've got money, Clara. More than I need. What I didn't have was a reason to use it." He squeezed her hands. "Now I do." Clara felt tears streaming down her face. She seemed to do a lot of crying lately, but these were good tears. Healing tears. "You really want this?" "All of it. The chaos, the noise, the love, the laughter, the life." Elijah smiled. "Yeah, I want all of it." Clara threw her arms around his neck. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." He held her tight, and for a long moment they just breathed together. Then a small voice broke the silence. "Mama." They turned. Emma stood in the doorway, clutching her nightgown. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I had a bad dream. Can I sit with you?" Clara held out her arms. Emma ran to her and climbed into her lap. What was the dream about? The bad man came back. He took us away. Emma's voice trembled. He said Mama wasn't allowed to keep us. That's not going to happen. Elijah's voice was firm. The judge said you belong here, and I'm going to make sure of it. How? I'm going to adopt you, all of you. That means I'll be your real pa by law. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? Really? All of us, even Samuel. Especially Samuel. Emma turned to Clara. Mama, is that true? It's true, baby. Emma threw her arms around Elijah's neck. Thank you, Pa. Thank you. Elijah held her, his eyes meeting Clara's over the little girl's head. In them, Clara saw everything. Love, hope, fear, determination. The same things she felt. Let's get you back to bed, Clara said. You've got a big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? First day of the rest of our lives. Elijah stood lifting Emma with him. And it starts with pancakes. Emma giggled. I like pancakes. I know you do. He carried her inside and Clara followed, watching her husband. Her husband tuck her daughter into bed. This was real. This was happening. And she was finally allowing herself to believe it. February brought change. The adoption papers were filed. The lawyer said it would take months, but Elijah didn't care. The process had begun. The children settled into routines. Thomas worked alongside Elijah and the ranch hands, learning to rope cattle and mend fences. Abigail took charge of the household, managing her younger siblings with the efficiency of a general. The middle children went to school in town, a battle Clara had fought and won with the school board. 9 new students, the schoolmaster had sputtered. We don't have the space. Make space, Elijah had said, or I'll build you a new schoolhouse. He wasn't bluffing. The schoolmaster knew it. The children started school the following Monday. But not everyone in Clearwater was ready to accept the Mercer family. Clara noticed it at church that first Sunday after their return. The whispers, the pointed looks, the way certain women gathered in tight clusters and went silent when she approached. Mrs. Holloway was the worst. Such a shame, Clara overheard her say to a group of women. That poor man saddled with another man's children. And the wife, well, you know what they say about women who move that fast. Clara's face burned. She started to turn away. What do they say, Margaret? Elijah's voice cut through the gossip like a blade. Mrs. Holloway froze. I beg your pardon? You said you know what they say. I'm curious. Elijah stepped forward and the cluster of women parted like water. What exactly do they say about my wife? I didn't mean... Because from where I stand, they say she's brave. They say she walked 6 miles through a blizzard to save her children. They say she fought in court to keep her family together. His voice dropped. What do you say, Margaret? Mrs. Holloway's face went white, then red. I was simply expressing concern for your welfare, Mr. Mercer. My welfare has never been better. Elijah put his arm around Clara. And if anyone has concerns about my wife or my children, they can bring those concerns directly to me. Understood. He looked around the group. One by one, the women dropped their eyes. Understood, Mrs. Holloway whispered. Good. Now if you'll excuse us, my family is going home. They walked out of the church together, all 11 of them. Clara's heart was pounding. You didn't have to do that, she said once they were outside. Yes, I did. She'll make trouble for you, for us. Let her try. Elijah helped Emma into the wagon. I've faced down rustlers, droughts, and blizzards. Margaret Holloway doesn't scare me. Clara couldn't help it. She laughed. What's funny? You, this, everything? She shook her head. 3 months ago I had nothing. Now I have everything. It's overwhelming. Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? Good, definitely good. She squeezed his hand. Thank you, for defending me, for all of it. Don't thank me for doing what's right. He kissed her cheek. Now let's go home. I believe someone promised pancakes. That was weeks ago. A promise is a promise. The children cheered. Clara laughed again. This was her life now. She was still getting used to it. March came with melting snow and a new crisis. Clara woke to the sound of coughing, deep, rattling coughs that echoed through the house. She was out of bed before she was fully awake, running toward the children's rooms. It was Samuel. The baby was burning with fever, his tiny chest heaving with every breath. Abigail was already there holding him, her face white with fear. "I don't know what happened," she said. "He was fine when I put him down. Then I heard him coughing and—" Clara took the baby. His skin was hot to the touch, his lips slightly blue. "Get Elijah! Now!" Abigail ran. Clara held Samuel close, trying to calm her racing heart. This was too familiar, too much like no. She wouldn't think that, wouldn't let herself remember the fever that had taken Frank. "Hold on, baby," she whispered. "Mama's here. Hold on." Elijah burst through the door, still half-dressed. "What is it?" "Fever. High. His breathing." Clara's voice broke. "It sounds like his lungs are filling." Elijah's face went grim. "I'll ride for the doctor." "It's 10 miles. In the dark." "I'll make it." He pulled on his boots. "Keep him warm. Keep him breathing. I'll be back before dawn." He was gone before Clara could respond. She sat in the rocking chair, holding Samuel against her chest, listening to his labored breathing. "Please," she prayed. "Please, not him. Not after everything." The hours crawled by. The other children woke one by one, drawn by some instinct to the room where their mother sat vigil. They gathered around her, silent and scared, holding each other's hands. "Is Samuel going to die?" Emma asked in a small voice. "No." Clara's voice was fierce. "He's not going to die. He's a fighter, just like all of us." "He's so little." "Little doesn't mean weak." Clara looked at her children. "You've all been through things that would break most people, but you're still here, still standing. Samuel's the same. He's got Whitmore blood in him, Mercer blood now too. He's going to fight." Thomas stepped forward. "What can we do?" "Pray, and stay close." Clara managed a smile. "That's all any of us can do." Dawn came, then morning. Still no Elijah. Still no doctor. Samuel's fever raged. Clara bathed him in cool water, tried to get him to drink, held him while he cried and coughed and struggled. "Please," she whispered over and over. "Please, please, please." The door burst open just after noon. Elijah was back, and he wasn't alone. "This is Dr. Patterson," he said, pulling a gray-haired man into the room. "Best doctor in the territory." Dr. Patterson moved quickly to Clara's side. He took Samuel, examined him with practiced hands. "Pneumonia," he said. "Caught early enough. I can treat it." Clara's legs gave out. Elijah caught her. "He's going to be all right, if we work fast." The doctor was already pulling supplies from his bag. "I need hot water, clean cloths, and everyone except the mother needs to leave." The children scattered. For the next 3 hours, Dr. Patterson worked. Clara assisted, following his instructions without question. Steam treatments, poultices, medicine measured drop by careful drop. By evening, Samuel's fever had broken. He lay in his crib, sleeping peacefully, his breathing clear for the first time in hours. "He's not out of danger yet," Dr. Patterson said. "The next few days are critical, but he's strong, and you got to him in time." "Thank you." Clara's voice was barely audible. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank your husband. He rode 10 miles in the dark and the cold and banged on my door until I thought he'd break it down." The doctor smiled. "That's a man who loves his family." Clara looked at Elijah. He stood in the doorway, exhausted, covered in mud, watching Samuel sleep. "Yeah," she said softly. He does. After the doctor left, Clara found Elijah in the barn. He was standing by his horse, not moving, just standing. Elijah. He didn't turn around. I almost lost him. His voice was rough. Just like... He stopped. But Clara knew what he'd been about to say. Just like Martha. Just like his own child. But you didn't. She put her hand on his back. You saved him. The doctor saved him. The doctor wouldn't have been here if you hadn't gone, in the dark, in the cold, when anyone else would have waited until morning. She moved around to face him. You saved him, Elijah. Our son. His eyes were wet. He didn't try to hide it. When I saw him like that, struggling to breathe, I thought... He shook his head. I thought, not again. I can't do this again. You won't have to. He's going to be fine. How do you know? Because we're not going to let anything happen to him, to any of them. Clara took his face in her hands. We're their parents now, both of us, and we're going to protect them with everything we have. I don't know how to do this. His voice cracked. I never got the chance to learn. Martha died before, neither did I. Frank worked himself to death, and I've been figuring it out alone ever since. She smiled. But we don't have to figure it out alone anymore. We have each other. Elijah pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to break him. I love you, he said into her hair. God help me, I love you so much it terrifies me. I know, I feel the same way. Does it ever get less scary? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe we just get braver. They stood there in the barn holding each other while the winter wind howled outside. Samuel recovered. Within a week, he was back to his usual self, crying lustily for food, grabbing at everything within reach, laughing when his brothers and sisters made faces at him. Clara watched him play on the floor, surrounded by children who loved him, and felt something release in her chest. They'd faced another crisis. They'd survived. Maybe they could survive anything. April brought spring. The snow melted. Green shoots pushed through the wet earth. The world seemed to be waking up after a long sleep. Clara stood on the porch watching the children play in the yard. Thomas and Abigail were teaching the younger ones to ride the gentle mare Elijah had bought for that purpose. Emma was picking wildflowers. The twins were wrestling in the grass. Quite a sight. Clara turned. Elijah stood beside her holding 2 cups of coffee. It is. She took the cup he offered. Sometimes I still can't believe it's real. I know the feeling. He put his arm around her. A year ago I was alone in this house, convinced I'd never feel anything again. Now look at us. Look at us, Clara agreed. They watched the children together. The adoption papers came through, Elijah said. Clara nearly dropped her coffee. What? Silas sent word this morning. It's official. They're all Mercers now. Clara felt tears spring to her eyes. All of them. All of them. Thomas Mercer, Abigail Mercer, Emma, Michael, Matthew, Rose, Grace, and Samuel Mercer. He smiled. Our children. Legally, officially, forever. Clara threw her arms around his neck, nearly spilling coffee everywhere. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't thank me. They're my kids too. He held her tight. They have been since the day they walked through my door. Clara pulled back, wiped her eyes. We should tell them. We should. They walked into the yard together. Clara clapped her hands. Everyone. Come here. The children gathered, curious and slightly worried. Is something wrong? Thomas asked. Nothing's wrong. Clara smiled. Something's right. Very right. She looked at Elijah. He nodded. The adoption is official, Clara said. You're all Mercers now, legally. Silence. Then Emma let out a shriek of joy. We're Mercers! We're really Mercers! The other children erupted, hugging each other, hugging Clara, hugging Elijah, laughing and crying and talking all at once. "Does this mean you're really our pa?" Thomas asked Elijah. "Really and truly. No one can take that away." Thomas threw his arms around Elijah. The other children piled on. Clara watched tears streaming down her face. This was her family. This was her life, and she'd never been happier. That night, after the celebration had finally wound down, Clara and Elijah sat by the fire. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "About the past year. About everything that happened." She leaned against him. "This time last year, I was watching Frank die, wondering how I'd feed my children, wondering if we'd survive. And now I can't imagine any other life." She looked up at him. "You saved us, Elijah. I don't care what you say you saved us. We saved each other." He kissed her forehead. "That's what families do." Clara closed her eyes. Family. The word had never meant so much. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "What?" "Visit Martha's grave. Pay my respects." She looked at him. "She gave me you. In a way, she gave me everything. I want to thank her." Elijah's breath caught. "Clara, I know it might seem strange, but I feel like I owe her. She was your first love. She deserves to know that you're happy, that you're loved, that the life you built isn't empty anymore." For a long moment, Elijah didn't speak. Then, "Tomorrow. We'll go tomorrow." Clara nodded. "Tomorrow." They sat together in the firelight, listening to the sounds of their sleeping children, thinking about the woman who had come before the life that had led to this one. Tomorrow they would honor the past. Tonight they celebrated the present, and the future stretched out before them, full of promise and possibility. They climbed the hill behind the barn at dawn. Clara held Elijah's hand, feeling the tension in his grip. 9 years since he'd buried Martha here. 9 years of silence, of building walls, of running from the pain. Now he was bringing his new wife to meet his first. The grave was marked with a simple stone. Martha Jane Mercer. Beloved wife. 1852, 1876. Elijah stopped a few feet away. His hand trembled in Clara's. "I don't know what to say to her." "Say what's in your heart." "It's been so long. I stopped coming here after the first year. It hurt too much." His voice cracked. "I felt like I was betraying her every time I smiled, every time I laughed, every time I felt anything but grief." Clara squeezed his hand. "She wouldn't have wanted that." "I know. But knowing and feeling are different things." He took a shaky breath. "I loved her, Clara. Part of me will always love her." "I know. That's okay." Is it really?" Clara turned to face him, took both his hands. "Elijah, I didn't come here to replace her. I came here to thank her. For loving you, for making you the man you are, for giving you a heart big enough to love again." She touched his face. "She's part of you, part of us. I wouldn't want it any other way." Elijah's eyes filled with tears. "How did I get so lucky?" "We found each other. That's not luck. That's grace." He pulled her close, held her for a long moment. Then he turned to the grave and knelt in the wet grass. "Martha." His voice was rough. "I don't know if you can hear me. Don't know if any of this makes sense. But I needed to come. I needed to tell you." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I found someone. Her name is Clara. She's good, Martha. Kind, strong. She has 9 children who needed a home, and I needed—" His voice broke completely. "I needed them. I needed her. I needed to stop dying and start living again." Clara stood behind him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not forgetting you. I could never forget you. But I can't keep living in the past. I can't keep punishing myself for surviving when you didn't." He placed his hand on the gravestone. "So I'm saying goodbye. Not to the love that stays forever, but to the grief, to the guilt, to the empty years." He was crying now. Open, honest tears. I hope you're at peace. I hope you know I loved you. And I hope you can be happy for me, for us. He bowed his head. Clara knelt beside him, put her arm around his shoulders. Mrs. Mercer, she said softly, I promise to take care of him. I promise to love him the way he deserves. And I promise that your memory will always be honored in our home. They knelt there together as the sun rose, saying goodbye to one chapter and welcoming another. When they finally stood, Elijah's face was different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Thank you, he said. I didn't know how much I needed that. I did. Clara took his hand. Now let's go home. Our children are waiting. Our children. The words felt right. The months rolled on. Spring turned to summer. Summer brought long days of work and play, of teaching the children to ride and rope, of watching them transform from scared survivors into confident young people. Thomas, now 12, worked alongside Elijah like a born rancher. His shoulders broadened. His voice deepened. He started calling Elijah Pa without hesitation, and every time he did, Clara saw Elijah's face light up. Abigail, 15 now, became Clara's right hand. She managed the younger children with patience and skill, and she'd started talking about maybe becoming a school teacher someday. Would that be okay? She asked Clara one evening. Going away to school, becoming something. It would be more than okay. Clara hugged her tight. Your father would be so proud. Which one? The question caught Clara off guard. She pulled back to look at her daughter. Both of them. Frank gave you life. Elijah gave you a future. They both love you. Abigail's eyes filled with tears. I still miss Papa. The first one, I mean. So do I. We always will. Clara brushed hair from Abigail's face. But missing someone doesn't mean we can't be happy. It just means we carry them with us, every day, in everything we do. Abigail nodded slowly. Mama, yes. I'm glad you married Mr. Mercer. I'm glad we found him. We didn't find him, sweetheart. We found each other. August brought unexpected visitors. Clara was hanging laundry when the wagon appeared on the horizon. She shaded her eyes, trying to make out who it was. Not anyone from town. The wagon was too fancy. The horses too fine. A cold finger of fear traced down her spine. Elijah! He came running from the barn, Thomas right behind him. What is it? Someone's coming. I don't recognize them. They waited together, watching the wagon approach. Clara's heart pounded with every turn of the wheels. The wagon stopped in front of the house. A man stepped down, elderly, well-dressed, with a silver-topped cane and eyes that looked familiar, too familiar. Mrs. Mercer. The man's voice was cultured, Eastern. Yes. My name is William Whitmore. I'm Frank's father. Clara's voice came out flat. The man who disowned him. William Whitmore flinched. Yes, I deserve that. What do you want? To apologize, to explain, to... He stopped, looked at the children who had gathered behind Clara, counted them. To meet my grandchildren. Clara felt Elijah step up beside her. His hand found hers. You have no grandchildren here, she said. You made that clear years ago. I was wrong. I was stubborn and proud and wrong. The old man's voice cracked. I lost my son because of that pride. I missed his entire life. I missed... He gestured at the children. I missed all of this. And now that he's dead, now you want to make amends? I know I don't deserve it. I know words can't fix what I did. William Whitmore's eyes were wet. But I'm dying, Mrs. Mercer. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. And before I go, I wanted to see them, just once. I wanted to see what my son built. Clara's anger warred with something else, something softer. You let your other son try to take them from me, she said. Harold, he took me to court, tried to prove I was an unfit mother. I know, I've dealt with Harold. William's face hardened. He won't trouble you again. I've made sure of that. How? By cutting him off. Completely. The same thing I did to Frank, except Harold deserved it. The old man stepped closer. Everything I have, every penny, every acre, every stock certificate, it's going to Frank's children, my grandchildren, whether you allow me to meet them or not. Clara's breath caught. What? I couldn't give my son what he deserved in life. I can at least give his children what they deserve. William looked at her with Frank's eyes, the same shape, the same color. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness. There is no forgiveness for what I did, but I can try to make it right, in whatever small way I can. Clara looked at Elijah. He nodded slightly. You can stay for dinner, she said, and you can meet them. But if you do anything to hurt them or confuse them or make them doubt the life we've built here, I won't. William's voice was fervent. I swear it on my son's memory. Clara studied him. This old man who had caused so much pain. This grandfather her children had never known. Come inside, she finally said. The children should meet you. The dinner was awkward at first. The children didn't know what to make of this stranger who looked at them with hungry eyes and asked careful questions about their lives. But William Whitmore knew how to charm children. By the end of the meal, Emma was showing him her collection of pressed flowers. The twins were describing their latest adventure. Even Thomas, suspicious at first, had warmed up enough to answer questions about ranching. Only Abigail held back, watching the old man with guarded eyes. You have your father's face, William told her. The same determination, the same fire. I didn't know my father had fire, Abigail said coolly. You weren't there to see it. Abby, Clara started. No, let her speak. William held up a hand. She's right. I wasn't there. I missed everything. He looked at Abigail directly. Your father wrote to me once after you were born. He sent a photograph. You were maybe 2 weeks old. Abigail's mask slipped slightly. He did. He said you were the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Said you had your mother's eyes and his stubborn chin. William smiled sadly. I burned the letter, threw the photograph in the fire, told myself I didn't care. Did you? Care? Yes. I cared so much it hurt. That's why I burned it. Because caring meant admitting I was wrong. And I was too proud for that. He shook his head. Pride is a poison, Abigail. It killed my relationship with your father. Almost killed my soul. Don't let it do the same to you. Abigail was quiet for a long moment. Then, Papa talked about you sometimes. When he thought we weren't listening. William's face crumpled. What did he say? That you were brilliant. That you built everything from nothing. That he wished... Abigail's voice wavered. He wished things had been different. That's all he ever said. He wished things had been different. William put his face in his hands. The room went silent. Finally, Clara spoke. Frank forgave you. I think he forgave you a long time ago. He just never had the chance to tell you. You don't know that. I do. Clara's voice was firm. I was married to him for 10 years. I knew his heart. He wasn't capable of holding grudges. He loved too much. William looked up. His cheeks were wet. He got that from his mother. She was the same way. Loved everyone, held on to nothing. He wiped his face. I destroyed 2 marriages with my pride. Hers and his. And for what? For money. For position. He laughed bitterly. Look at me now. All the money in the world, and I'm dying alone. You're not alone. The words came from Emma, who had crept to his side. You have us now, don't you? You're our grandpa. William stared at her. This small child with Frank's eyes offering him something he didn't deserve. Yes, he whispered. I suppose I am. Emma threw her arms around his neck. William Whitmore, railroad tycoon and stubborn fool, broke down completely. And somehow in that moment, something healed. William stayed for a week. He played with the children. He told them stories about their father as a boy. He walked the property with Elijah, asking questions about ranching, genuinely interested in the life his grandchildren had built. On his last night, he called Clara and Elijah aside. "I've changed my will," he said. "Everything goes to the children, in trust until they're of age. Enough for education, for land, for whatever they want." "That's not necessary," Elijah started. "It's not about necessary. It's about right." William looked at Clara. "Your husband was the best man I ever knew, and I threw him away. Let me do this one thing. Let me give his children the future he would have wanted." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "We'll make sure they know where it came from. Make sure they know who their father was. That's what matters." William took her hands. "You did something remarkable, Clara. You kept them together. You kept them alive. You found them a home." He looked at Elijah. "And you gave them a father. Don't think I don't see what you've done here, what you've built." Elijah's jaw tightened. "They're my children. That's all that matters." "Yes, they are. Legally and every other way." William smiled. "Frank would have approved of you, Mr. Mercer. He would have been glad to know his children are in good hands." The old man left the next morning. 3 months later, they received word that he had died peacefully in his sleep. The children inherited everything, but what they treasured most wasn't the money. It was the letters William had written in his final weeks, one to each child, telling them about their father, about their grandmother, about the family they'd never known. Abigail read hers aloud to the others, her voice steady, even as tears streamed down her face. "Your father was my greatest achievement," she read, "and my greatest failure. I gave him life, then I threw it away. But he didn't let that stop him. He built a family. He found love. He raised children who carry his kindness and his strength. I never told him how proud I was. I'm telling you instead. Be like him. Love like him. And never ever let pride steal your happiness. Your grandfather, William Whitmore." The room was silent when she finished. Then Samuel, nearly a year old now, fat and healthy and full of life, let out a babble that sounded almost like Papa. Everyone laughed through their tears. Life had a way of continuing, of healing, of moving forward, and the Mercer family was proof of that. Fall came again. Clara stood on the porch watching the leaves turn gold and red. A year since she'd knocked on Elijah's door. A year since everything changed. "Penny, for your thoughts." Elijah appeared beside her, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. "Just thinking about last year. About the person I was then." "Who were you?" "Scared. Desperate. Barely holding on." She took the coffee. "I didn't think I could survive another day, let alone build a life. And now I can't imagine any other life." She leaned into him. "You saved us, Elijah." "We saved each other. That's what I keep telling you." "I know, but you had a choice. When you opened that door, you could have turned us away. You could have given us food and sent us on our way. Instead, I let 9 children and a beautiful woman turn my quiet life upside down." He smiled. "Best decision I ever made." Clara laughed. "We definitely turned it upside down. In the best way." He put his arm around her. "This house used to be so quiet, so empty. Now it's full of noise and chaos and life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even when the twins track mud through the kitchen. Even then. Even when Samuel screams at 3 in the morning. Even then." He kissed her temple. "It's all proof that I'm alive. That we're alive. Together." Clara set down her coffee and wrapped her arms around him. "I love you, Elijah Mercer." "I love you too, Clara Mercer." They stood there holding each other as the autumn wind scattered leaves across the yard. Behind them, the house hummed with life. Children arguing, children laughing, children growing, their children. The first snow fell on Christmas Eve, Clara watched it through the window, remembering another snow, another night, another life. Mama! Emma ran up, tugging her sleeve. Come look, Pa helped us decorate the tree. Clara let herself be pulled into the main room where chaos reigned. The tree stood in the corner, covered in handmade ornaments. Strings of popcorn, paper angels, a wooden star on top that Elijah had carved himself. The children were everywhere, hanging ornaments, throwing popcorn at each other, chasing the cat that had wandered in from the barn. Elijah stood in the middle of it all. Samuel on his hip, a strand of popcorn draped over his shoulder like a scarf. A little help, he called to Clara, grinning. She laughed and waded into the chaos. This was her life now. Noisy, messy, perfect. That night, after the children were finally asleep, Clara and Elijah sat by the fire. I have something for you, he said. Elijah, we said no gifts. This isn't exactly a gift, more like a promise. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, simple gold, with a small diamond that caught the firelight. We got married so fast, he said. There was no time for a real ring, no time for anything proper. I always meant to fix that. Clara's eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful. It's yours. Has been since the day I met you. He slipped the ring onto her finger. I know we're already married. I know the papers are signed. But I wanted you to have something real. Something that says... He paused. Something that says you're not just my wife. You're my home. Clara threw her arms around him. You're my home too, she whispered. You and the children. This house. This life. I never knew I could be this happy. Get used to it. He held her tight. We've got a lot of years ahead of us. Promise? Promise. They sat together by the fire, the ring glinting on Clara's finger, the snow falling softly outside. A year ago, she'd been walking through a blizzard, carrying a baby with 8 other children behind her. Desperate, terrified, alone. Now she was none of those things. She was Clara Mercer, wife, mother, home. New Year's Day arrived cold and clear. Clara woke early before the children, before even Elijah. She slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen to make coffee. As she stood at the window watching the first light break over the frozen land, she thought about all the New Year's mornings she'd lived through. Some had been happy. Some had been heartbreaking. Some she'd barely survived. This one was different. This one was full of promise. Couldn't sleep. She turned. Elijah stood in the doorway, rumpled and warm. Just thinking. About 1 year ago today, I knocked on your door. He crossed to her side, put his arms around her from behind. Best New Year's Day of my life. Mine too. She leaned back against him. I was so scared, so desperate. I kept thinking, he's going to turn us away. He's going to say no. He's going to... I couldn't have said no. Not if I'd wanted to. He rested his chin on her shoulder. The moment I opened that door and saw you standing there, I knew. Knew what? That my life was about to change. That the walls I'd built were about to come down. He turned her to face him. That I was about to fall in love. Clara felt tears spill down her cheeks. I didn't believe in love anymore. Not after everything. But you made me believe again. We made each other believe. He wiped her tears with his thumb. That's what love is, isn't it? 2 broken people putting each other back together. Is that what we are broken? Maybe we were. Not anymore. He kissed her forehead. Now we're whole. Now we're family. The door to the bedroom burst open. Children poured out, still in their nightclothes, shouting, Happy New Year, at the top of their lungs. Samuel, toddling, now led the charge. He careened across the floor and grabbed Elijah's leg. Papa up! Elijah scooped him up, laughing. Happy New Year, little man. The other children swarmed around Clara, hugging her, talking over each other, filling the kitchen with noise and warmth and life. Thomas, almost 13 now, stood back slightly. Clara caught his eye. You okay? Yeah. He smiled a real smile, not the guarded expression he'd worn when they first arrived. I was just thinking. Last year, I thought we were all going to die. Now look at us. Pretty good, huh? Better than good. Thomas glanced at Elijah, who was now surrounded by children demanding pancakes. He's a good man, Ma. The best. I know. Papa would have liked him. Clara felt her heart squeeze. Yeah, he would have. Thomas hugged her quick, a little embarrassed, but real. Happy New Year, Ma. Happy New Year, sweetheart. They gathered around the table for breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, enough food to feed an army. The children ate like they'd been starving, even though they hadn't been hungry in almost a year. Old habits died hard, but new ones were forming. After breakfast, they bundled up and went outside. Elijah led them to the hill behind the barn, to the spot where Martha was buried. I want to start a tradition, he said. Every New Year's Day we come here. We remember the people we've lost, and we celebrate the people we've found. The children gathered around the gravestone. Even the little ones were quiet, sensing the importance of the moment. Elijah knelt by the stone. Martha, I'd like you to meet my family. These are my children, Thomas Abigail, Emma Michael, Matthew Rose, Grace and Samuel. And this, he reached for Clara's hand. This is my wife, Clara. Clara knelt beside him. Thank you, she said softly. For loving him first, for making him who he is. We'll take care of him now, I promise. Abigail stepped forward, placed a small bunch of dried flowers on the grave. Thank you for sharing him with us, she said. We needed him. And I think maybe he needed us too. One by one, the children added something. A ribbon, a feather, a small stone. Simple gifts for a woman they'd never met, but who had made their lives possible. When it was done, they stood in a circle around the grave, hands joined. To Martha, Elijah said, and to Frank, and to everyone we've lost. And to everyone we've found, Clara added. To family, Thomas said. To family, the others echoed. They walked back to the house together, the children running ahead, their laughter echoing across the frozen land. Elijah took Clara's hand. You okay? Better than okay. She looked at the house he'd built for one woman, and filled with another the house that had been empty for 8 years, and was now bursting with life. I'm home. Yeah. He squeezed her hand. You are. That night, after the children were asleep, Clara sat down at the kitchen table and wrote in the journal she'd started keeping. 1 year ago today, I knocked on a stranger's door. I had nothing. I expected nothing. I was prepared to beg. Instead, I found everything. A home, a husband, a father for my children, a life I never dared to dream of. They say everyone deserves a fresh start. I didn't believe that once. I thought some people were too broken, too beaten down, too far gone for second chances. I was wrong. Second chances aren't given. They're earned. They're fought for. They're built day by day from the wreckage of what came before. Elijah Mercer taught me that. My children taught me that. This family, this beautiful, chaotic, imperfect family, taught me that. So here's to fresh starts. Here's to open doors. Here's to the people brave enough to knock and the people kind enough to answer. And here's to love. The kind that heals, the kind that lasts, the kind that makes everything possible. Clara Mercer. New Year's Day, 1885. She closed the journal and looked out the window. The stars were brilliant overhead, scattered across the black sky like diamonds on velvet. Somewhere out there, Frank was watching. Martha was watching. All the people they'd lost, all the love they'd carried. And here in this house on this land, their legacy continued. 9 children sleeping peacefully. 2 hearts finally whole. 1 family bound not by blood but by something stronger. By choice. By courage. By love. Clara Mercer smiled, blew out the lamp, and went to join her husband. Outside, the snow began to fall. Inside, a family slept. And in the silence of a winter night, second chances bloomed like flowers in spring. This is how it ends. Not with loss, but with love. Not with fear, but with faith. Not with an ending, but with a beginning. The Mercer family, 11 strong, bound by choice and forged by fire, had found their way home. And that home would stand for generations. Strong, unshakable, built on the foundation of a single knock on a cold winter's door, and a man brave enough to answer.